There you go.
All right.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to September. September. Welcome to November. I'm looking outside and it's raining. Hopefully it's raining where you're at too. We need it. But let me kick this off. So this is Steve Dicus talking. And I think, well, we've talked about this in the past about this new program Jeff and I are rolling out called Breakfast with a Manufacturer. We came up with the idea that it's kind of a follow-on of what we did last month in October on Manufacturing Day with manufacturers talking to students, whether they're community college or high school. We're kind of doing a pilot one this week. It was supposed to be this morning, but the manufacturer had to put it off till Thursday this week. So Cal Reynolds, the president of Snowline Engineering in Cameron Park, is going to be talking to Pete DeLose's engineering class this Thursday morning. And it's going to be more not about what manufacturing is about. It's more about, in this particular case, Cal Reynolds' story. And so it's going to be moderated, where I'm going to ask Cal questions like, what were some of the things that interested you in high school, and what got you on the pathway to manufacturing? And what are some of the challenges you had? And what are some of the certificates that people need to have to get to be out there? And just talk about 15, 20 minutes about his career path in manufacturing, and then open up to students and have them talk. And then the next one we're going to do is going to be in December. And Pam Goldman's not on this call, but when we did the presentation back in early October again on Manufacturing Day, Steve Reif with Kratos spoke to her class. And he's a manufacturing engineer from Sac State working for Kratos. And we're going to do the same thing, and there's going to be several classes. I think it's like 8 a.m. in the morning. Mike Waltz out at West Park, which is the new high school in West Roseville, and John Fuller, and I believe Melissa Hale from Some of the Oaks are going to join as well. So I'm going to send out an invite to everybody else. If you have a class at 8 o'clock in the morning, and if you want to join the one in December, but the one we're going to do this week, I'm just going to kind of keep it in-house, if you will, just to make sure we don't have any bugs and we can make sure it goes smoothly. So that's kind of what we're doing with Breakfast with a Manufacturer. And we're going to try to do this on a monthly basis going forward. We had several teachers that wanted to participate in the industrial maintenance mechanic presentation that we had slated in October, but I couldn't get the manufacturer or the speaker, if you will, to line up with any of the class times. And so we're going to try to do something in January and February. And so hopefully John Zay's on this call. I haven't seen him show up yet. But we'd like to do industrial maintenance mechanic because I believe that's it's a high need industry, it's a growth industry. And I think a lot of us in the shops can maybe push our students in that direction that have that electromechanical aptitude. So those are some of the things we're doing. Next thing, number 3, is winter train the trainer. You remember last winter we did, for those of you that remember, we did a 3-part series, design to part type of a thing. We did something in November, January, and February on a Saturday for 3 or 4 hours. And it was well attended and participants enjoyed it. This year, we're going to tag on to what we did last summer with generative design. And I've been talking with Tim Paul of Autodesk. He's a local guy. He's an Orangevale guy. And we're going to maybe do something on Saturday, January 16th. I just talked to Max Foreman at the Oak Ridge High School as we started this call. And we might do that location, or I might have something else up my sleeve, depending on what happens with a mobile manufacturing trailer. But that's too early to talk about that. So that's some of the training and interactions we've got going on here the next couple of months. So any questions from the audience? Gosh, I feel like I'm teaching class. Class? Any questions? A lot of crickets, I guess, is what they say. Well, with that said, Derek, are you ready to go?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So do you want to share your screen to start, or do you want me to introduce you? How do you want to do this?
Yeah, I'd love to just kind of just talk for a little bit. I do have some slides, but it
Okay.
is more of like a visual. So it kind of gets, some people are visual learners, as you all know. Some
I
people are
am.
hands-on learners. So
Yeah.
like Max over here. I love what he's doing right now. He's like, I'm trying to get a shop teacher at Jefferson Union High School District here in the Bay Area to get his new GoPro Hero 8, put it on his head, and live stream it so that his kids can watch him set up shop. Because it's like, why not? Like that's great content. Like I'd love to watch that. So what he's doing right now, like I'm loving it. Whatever you're making over there.
So Derek, introduce yourself. Tell us the name of the company and what your function is. Talk about your program.
Sure, sounds good. And how much time do I have just so I can keep within bounds
if you
here?
can keep 15 to 20 minutes max, that'd be really good.
Oh, okay. All right. Got it. So Derek Lee with PilotCity. My story began when I got out of Cal Poly for architecture about 9 years ago, and came back home and discovered that my hometown here in San Leandro in the Bay Area was on a mission to transform itself into a city of innovation. And I met the chief innovation officer when she first got hired to do this work of transforming our city into a city of innovation. And what I heard a lot about when we were doing that work was attraction of startups, attraction of talent, attraction. But I really didn't hear much about the people who are from there to be the ones that help build the future of the community. And as I deciphered communities and cities and towns across across the area, but also just across the United States in general, what I discovered is over 92% of our cities and towns in the United States, there's 19,500 cities and towns in the United States, 92% of them are under 10,000 in population. And based on what I'm understanding from what Steve's been mentioning, you all are coming from areas in the Sacramento region, but also the greater region of that area, and in some cases remote. And so most of your cities and towns and places that your kids are coming from are typically pretty small, I would assume. And in San Leandro, we're 88,000 population, so we're not big, we're almost medium, right? But we're small to medium, right? So we realize that communities like ours really don't get much of the action because we are typically eclipsed by the metropolis nearby, if you will. And so what I realized is that attraction of talent really is the only model that we can attempt to go for. But I never found that as a sustainable practice because there's so many people in our community that have the connection, the interest, the energy to build the community. And I realized that not every city or community has a college or a university. And the highest level education institution that our communities have across the United States are pretty much K-12 school systems, right, that we can rely on. And the highest level there is high school. So that's what prompted our work, essentially, is to, I started just basically volunteering my time and putting high school students at San Leandro High School into tech internships that I was finding in my hometown. And then the Career Pathways Trust Grant came along. You guys may have heard of that many years back. And I got funded to run San Leandro Unified's internship program for 2 years as part of the Chamber of Commerce. So that's how I started, not work-based learning, because I started that actually in Sacramento, but I started my work in San Leandro with this kind of contract for 2 years. Then Hayward Unified saw our work, Alameda County Office of Education saw our work. Then we started iterating towards programs that would actually scale what we all call work-based learning. Right. And that was the big problem that I saw, right, with the gold standard of work-based learning, which we would all, perceive to be internships. And internships were not scalable. You go talk to an employer, especially like a manufacturer, and say, hey, can you take an intern? And then they would ask, hey, are they 18 and over? And you say no. And then it's like, that's the end of the day, right? But when you go to employers in general and ask them, hey, can you take a high school intern? They'll, number one, say, what do I do with them, right? Like, I have no idea what they would even do at their skill level. And number two is like, I don't have time to manage someone at that skill level, right? So you run into these multiple barriers. So when we saw this issue, we realized that our students really needed to prove themselves before the employers are incentivized to essentially, take the student as an opportunity, right? So we started thinking about how to scale that, and we looked into project-based learning. And what's interesting about project-based learning as a mechanism for scaling work-based learning, essentially is that we can have students build projects in the school year, right? In your classes, in your classrooms, if you're all educators here. And, and then have students build those solutions for employers based on real problems that they're posing. And then having students submit those ideas and those prototypes of ideas to those actual employers by the end of the school year. And then it would qualify them for an internship to execute on that project that they already invented for the employer that scoped out the project in the first place. And so that became our flagship program that we've been scaling across the San Francisco Bay Area. So we were at 1,200 students last school year, had about 130 interns working for 22 different companies this last summer. And we are slated to have about 2,400 students in our program last year. And then a pandemic hit. And we accelerated, and I'm going to share today some learnings that we've conducted and some mechanisms that we've kind of been able to accomplish that allowed us to grow our program by 3 times this last year. So excited to be sharing this, and thank you for having me. I'd love to know who's in the room before I get further into it. So your name and organization and kind of, if you're an educator or teacher, that'd be very helpful as well. So maybe down the list, maybe Jeff, Alex, Alicia, Andrew, Gary, Karen, Matt, Max, just name and org. That'd be helpful.
Yeah, just make it quick.
Cool.
Jeff, you want to start? Just go right down the list.
Sure. Jeff Briggs, Regional Director, Advanced Manufacturing for the North Region Community Colleges.
I think my list is different, but I'm Andrew Bias. I am the manufacturing instructor for Folsom High School. Hey, Max.
Gary.
Yeah, I'll go next. Gary Potter, Regional Director for Advanced Manufacturing in the Central Valley Motherlode region. Jeff's counterpart.
All right, great. And Alicia. Okay, we come back to Alicia.
Alicia is on a call. She is the CTE coordinator for Folsom Cordova. She is my district advocate, pretty much.
Okay, great. Karen, and then Matt.
Hi, I'm Karen Fraser Middleton, and I work with Jeff and Steve. I do the newsletter and updates to the Education to Manufacturing website for the region.
Great, thank you. Matt.
I'm Matt Wynn. I'm the engineering and building trades teacher here at Cosumnes Oaks High School in Elk Grove.
Great, thank you. And Max, I believe, is last.
Max Foreman, I'm the manufacturing engineering instructor at Oak Ridge. So yeah, I was trying to get some projects proven out there.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to share my screen now. Could Steve, you give me access? I think it says that I can't share my screen because someone else is sharing their screen.
Yeah, Derek, Jeff will actually give it to you.
Okay.
He initiates the call.
Got it.
You should have privileges to share your screen. Is it not letting you do it?
Yeah, it says you cannot start share screen while the other participant is sharing. So maybe just close your screen share.
Gotcha. There it is. Okay.
Okay, cool. Now it should be good. All right. I'm gonna.
After 7 months of doing straight Zooms, you'd think we'd have this down.
Yeah, they make it hard sometimes, but generally, I think Zoom's pretty friendly. All right, so having access to laser cutters, a full-blown wood shop, full-blown metal shop, having a furniture competition when I was at Cal Poly for architecture, having a membership at Tech Shop before it's closed, You know, I have a close affinity to making things myself. I have my own clothing brand, had a shipping container that I converted into a community kitchen for food deserts with as a senior thesis project. I'll show you guys that later, maybe. So manufacturing is close to my heart, specifically advanced manufacturing and the stuff that people can touch, 3D printing, laser cutting, distributed manufacturing in general. So happy to be here. So these are some of our employers from our programs. You know, we have public service employers, we have tech employers, we have high growth industry based employers, Sony, Lawrence Berkeley Labs, Office of Congressman Barbara Lee, AI companies like Picterra and Allen AI. Again, city governments are all part of our repertoire of employers. And essentially what we do is we essentially partner employers with students. So we enable students to build employer project to win internships. So they build it during the school year. And then they can win internships essentially with those employers based on the project that they invented. And how it works is our employers at first create a program on our software. They would choose from preset program templates and they would set up the program and then record content with us and then publish the program. And then students from across really any jurisdiction at this point, since we're all digital, can explore employers and then select the employer that they want to build a project for. Then they would launch the program and then essentially build the project through guided activities, guided deliverables on our software, such as building a business model canvas, creating a prototype video, logging the design and prototyping process, and then they can finish the project for the employer towards the end of the school year, usually around this time. And then they would automatically apply for an internship through our program. And then the employers would interview them and they would get an offer, typically paid. And then they would go into internships in the summer, where it's a full-blown 6-week internship program where they execute and pilot the project that they invented during the school year. And I'll tell you a little more about the outcomes thereafter. But generally, the protagonists of our community here is our student, right? They are the main people that are growing ourselves to be the city of the future. Hey, Remy, this is my little nephew here. Hi.
Did they say hi? Like you would say hi? Say again.
So our student here is our protagonist, and then our teachers, our employers are really next, but our teachers support our students, our parents, our schools, right? So these are the main stakeholders of our program in general. When the pandemic occurred, the pandemic occurred when we actually started our program, essentially, like our event, our liftoff event was like right after that, right? Schools closed. So students' projects have not started yet. Interactions and communications between students, employers, and teachers were disconnected. Limited resources through distance learning. Students didn't have access to Chromebooks, right? Loss of community culture. Inability to host an in-person internship, all became barriers, right? And so what we essentially started doing, and sorry that was a little fast to kind of go through that, but basically a lot of problems, right, as you all have endured. What we essentially did was we launched an eight-point directive. We shifted towards some of these items here that I'll mention. So number one, we went asynchronous immediately. Right? Converted all our synchronous activities to asynchronous, like our employer-student interactions, where they come into the classroom and actually engage with students, with employers, right? We built an online community on discord.com. That was a big saver. I would highly recommend you all check out discord.com as a online student peer-to-peer community. Because first of all, if you were to go to all your students and say, hey, everybody, who uses this Discord? I bet you 20 to 30% of them will raise their hand and say, yes, I'm on it or I'm familiar with it. So I would highly recommend Discord as a community building tool with your students. We converted ourselves to a student choice of employer model. So we used to have teachers and employers matched up together. Then the teachers went to externship days at the employer's workplace, scoped out a project, learned about Kaiser Permanente's human-centered design process, Lawrence Berkeley National Labs, machinery, whatever they have. And they brought that project back to the classroom to have students work on solutions, right? But now we're going to record content with our employers, and students now get to choose their own employer. This is fundamentally very exciting for us because students now will have, you know, the highest level of engagement that they want because they get to choose who they want to work for essentially. We had a weekend digital hackathon as a fail-safe initially to essentially like have our students all get to the end of the school year around May 22nd, 24th last year, to have them all come to a weekend hackathon where they would essentially either start their projects if they didn't start it yet, finish their project if they didn't finish it yet, or accelerate to finish it. So it became our, it was really kind of an act of fear, but also an act of fear with courage facing that fear, right? So we had a weekend digital hackathon we had 180 students show up there, and we ended up having, you know, 3 times the amount of applicants in our internship program right after that program, that weekend hackathon. So a weekend event, synchronously on Discord. And we called that PilotCity Airtime. And then we also implemented a auto application process. So we already kind of did this initially. This was already planned in, but it was really a big win. It was a good move. Basically, as you all know, not every student has the confidence to apply for an internship and believe they're gonna get it. And that becomes a barrier typically for them to even start in the first place. So we've been promoting and we are executing on having students automatically apply. So essentially we take the data from our software and that becomes our application process for them to actually go into the internship program. So we don't need any additional information from them after they finish their project essentially. And then we also, this is a shift we made. We typically interview the students first synchronously, in person or phone, but typically in person, paired up with the workshop. This year, we actually created a video form using videoask.com, which is a tool of one of our employers, Typeform, which is a global company that makes data collection tools like forms. And we created a asynchronous interview system. So essentially, we recorded questions and then students can answer it on their own time. And then they just completed the interviews and then we can review them after they finished. It was very successful. Students had great answers. They had multiple times to essentially finish like what they, you know, to repeat or to, you know, do it over if they want to. And it just became very helpful for them. So these are the different things that we executed on during the pandemic that we learned as best practices that we'd love to share more of if you have interest in it. Our students are creating solutions based on real problems for real employers that have problems. And those solutions have customers, or they have users, or they have testers. They have people that want those solutions. So what we do is we have students go into the internship program with the intent of building the business side of their idea for the employer. So we have them actually engage real people that their solution could be for. So if you're looking for senior homes, because you have a grocery delivery service during the pandemic for Office of Congresswoman Barbara Lee, students are actually talking to senior homes saying, hey, we have a free nonprofit startup that we can deliver, you know, groceries to. And these kids now are in 6 different cities now delivering grocery to seniors as part of their project that they did. So collectively, these 130 interns made 4,000 attempts to reach out to users, testers, and customers for their ideas. 1,400 of them responded, 800 want to essentially continue working with these students. So these students are really going out and executing on these projects and making it really happen. And that is why PilotCity exists, is to make our young protagonists of our societies, you know, to invent that future. Students came into the internship program with their project about 28% finished, and they exited on average about 73% finished. So our internship program basically is too short, and we need to have post-program programs to really get them 100%. But this is, I thought you would be interested in this because, you know, doing something from nothing doesn't typically take 6 weeks. It takes a lot longer than that. But 73% is pretty good, in my opinion. 70% of our interns, fellows, and entrepreneurs, IFX, we call them, have a continued interest in their employer. So this is an opportunity for us to really have programs after our internship program where employers can rehire students, right? We haven't done that like intentionally yet, but we've been collecting data over time in the last 2 years in regards to this kind of, you know, exit interest. So you mentioned that. We got more data on our parents, on their interests in our program and why they like our program. Number one, career exploration and life experiences. Number two, college applications, impressions, and storytelling. Basically, I'm getting a lot of letter of recommendation requests now, and that's, eating parts of my time. And then number three, a strong third is social communication and collaboration skills. Resume, work experience, creativity, and problem solving. And the most interesting part is the least, parents have interest in is the technical skills, like actually learning technical skills, which is really fascinating to me, that parents really don't care about that at all compared to the other ones. What we see as a byproduct is confidence, responsibility, and a proper usage of summer break, is what our parents are saying. And I just had to throw that one in, but we see confidence as a big outcome in our program. It's because I think we throw kids into the fire of like presenting to people, pitching their project all the time. We have them engage real customers. And, from that, they're engaged because they're like, wow, I'm doing something real for school. And now I feel engaged and I feel responsible, right? So that's the second one, is they build a sense of responsibility in our program as well. That's the bulk of it. I want to show you a video because we made a really kind of hodgepodge video of our program this last year. And then I'll share some stories from students that are interesting use cases that we've been finding. And then we'll end with a video invite for you all to be part of our programs if you would like. So I'll play this video now. Let me know if you don't hear it. Do you hear it?
Nope. It's not coming through.
Okay.
Derek.
All right, well,
Can you hear me?
I'm just gonna play with, yeah, I can. Yes? Hello?
Yeah, go ahead and unshare your screen and then reshare your screen. But before you click share, make sure you check off. There's 2 buttons to optimize your video and audio.
Yeah, I actually checked those, and that's why I'm a little confused now.
Okay.
But if that's fine, I'll just play some. We'll just all sing together. All right, let's try it one more time. It doesn't. It's just like 1 minute, so it's not too bad. There's not much talking either. A lot of graphics though. All right. I'll kind of narrate. So these are all the students. Everyone had their own brand. Students get to explore programs. They're 3D designing. They're making presentation decks, right? This is our hackathon airtime. They're all on Discord. Employers were part of the process, right? That was the right-hand side. Students are creating like healthcare projects. They're creating, we had this huge emoji interaction one time. We had socials. We never really had socials formally, but we had like bake-offs and stuff. We had mentorship sessions and pinup days, so students can pitch. I was the senior grocery delivery people I mentioned. Robot detecting germs. People were in design companies, making graphics. Again, had an awesome bake-off. Some of these kids are making like professional stuff. Flipped is our final conference, essentially, where students are flipped as a role. So they present and they're the conference leaders. We typically have a social impact lens to a lot of this stuff. So like homelessness and, pandemic recovery and sustainability are all part of our kind of projects that we scope out with employers generally. So yeah, that was a little 101 on some of the items that some snapshots. What we find is that students find our program as a fresh breath of air. We've heard this multiple times, and we really like that kind of connotation for us. Employers don't see opportunity in high school students, right? And our program really is designed to give students that leg up of like, hey, prove yourself, get hard to do it, and then do it. and then do your best, right? Like that model has seemed to really be intensive for students, but also be very transformative for students, and then also deliver what the employer needs, which is the goal as well. This is teaching them confidence, right? This is a parent talking about their student. You know, Sushita actually mentioned that, hey, myself and my husband are hardworking parents, but Aryan, you know, during the internship program was the hardest working kid in our family during that summer. We're finding that employers are rehiring our students as contractors past the internship. That's really gratifying to see. We see students getting 2 internships, which is for the overachievers. But we have a handful, not a small amount, maybe like 7 or 8 who actually got 2 internships. And we also see students also coming back to our program, like Kiara from Hayward, and then working for a different company. And, you know, that was a different experience from last year because they had a different employer. And we're also seeing that, you know, the students, you know, again, that confidence, right, on the bottom side of this kind of statement here that we're seeing our parents see in their students when they kind of go through it all. And one thing that we're very proud of is that we are really kind of like a big family. So when you start to kind of meet some of these students, like they're still engaged, they're still with us, they're still hanging out, right? So that's one thing that I'm most proud of is the culture and community that essentially we've built. And that is it. I do want to let you know that I made a little video to invite with you all who would like to join our program. And this is what you'll see when you go to the website that I'll give you. There's even a little thing on the bottom right where you can ask me a question and I'll reply back with a video answer. So I'll put this little link in there. I thought I'd send one directly to you all so you can have an opportunity to consider joining our program. So that link, that password essentially will give you some instructions on how you can participate. So I'm going to stop my screen now and happy to take questions and chop it up and see what you all think in general.
Derek, thank you very much. This is Steve talking again. Tell us a little bit about what your aspirations are for bringing your program up here to the Sacramento region, and what connections do you have with employers up here, especially in the manufacturing space?
Yeah, for sure. So we're very interested in Sacramento. We actually brought a delegation of San Leandro, brought the mayor of San Leandro, Alameda County Office of Ed, San Leandro Unified, San Leandro Education Foundation up to Sacramento, the mayor of Sacramento's office, Daryl Steinberg, and we were learning about their 1,000 Strong program because we want to execute a mayoral program for work-based learning across different cities in the Bay Area if we can assemble it. So been very interested in Sacramento, and interestingly enough, I started my work-based learning work actually in Sacramento when there was my former employer needed someone flaked on her, and so she had 14 kids coming from Shenzhen, China, and needed job shadows and homestays, but they had the homestays covered, but they needed job shadows. So I actually went to Sacramento not knowing anybody, stayed in a motel that they covered, and basically recruited employers to have them join. And that was my first experience of actually work-based learning. It was about 10, 11, 12 years ago, recruiting employers. So Sacramento, we've been connected with the ecosystem there, like Hacker Lab, right? Or Cap City, the co-working spaces basically, but then also local employers too. Manufacturing has always been tough because they need people 18 plus or over. But I think this pandemic is going to really help adjust that interest so that employers are interested on a more digital front. And I think that will bypass a lot of things. So we intend to have manufacturing employers, perhaps more on the advanced manufacturing side as a start. And we have manufacturing employers too.
Is it too late in the school year for, if I had some students that want to jump into this program, getting ready for next summer?
No, not at all. We actually haven't even launched our program yet. So our program launches in January 29th. So we still have a couple months till we have our menu for students to choose from. And we're going to kick it off with a hackathon, actually. So they have an option to join a weekend hackathon as well.
Who else has questions for Derek? Max?
Yeah, what's up, Max?
I guess, Derek, is there a way that I like the model where it's going at this point, but the other challenge might be, is there going to be any design or functionality built so that if the students can't necessarily find a project, or if there aren't local employers that have the time to post up a project, are there going to be ways for students to say, hey, I want to work on this project and I'm going to demonstrate what I did to solve that project, you know? So like the students could be, granted, it'll just showcase their abilities and their ability to work on equipment or solve a technical problem, you know, right? And Portfolium is kind of is another platform created by another Cal Poly graduate. Aha.
I met them before.
Huh?
I met Portfolium before.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
is there going to be the ability to flip? Because again, I've got a whole long list of local manufacturing employers that are here in Sacramento, and they may not necessarily on the top of like have the time or the resources to come up with a project on their own since they're smaller manufacturers, but a way for students to just throw out there and say, hey, I've created this solution to a thing and made this cool product or did this, but these are my skills and you still may be interested in hiring me to do this, even if it's not a project that you guys have for me to work on.
Yeah, that's a very interesting approach, Max, for having students kind of join in. The most optimized approach would be to scope out a project with an employer and frame it so that students can actually solve a problem related to it and then qualify for it. So we still would recommend that kind of approach. You know, what I would recommend in those cases, have students choose the best employer that's related to what they're interested in and what they're capable of, and then have them take a stab at it, and then have them join the program anyways, to kind of go for it. If there's really no employers that are best for them, then we need to do a better job in getting a wider, diverse employer base. But one thing that we have explored is having an incubator employer. So really just a PilotCity program that we run in our flagship program, where it's really your own ideas that you're pitching. And then you're going in as an entrepreneur or as an intrapreneur, right? And then you're executing on those projects as an internal fellow or entrepreneur in residence. So that's something that we're not doing this year based on capacity, but that's our current, solutions right now.
Well, I mean, so the Bay Area, I mean, I guess it's a slightly different model where it works. San Leandro, while it's gobbled up, or San Lorenzo, shout out to you, Drew, or San, whatever. I grew up in Oakland, so I know the area a little bit better. But I mean, what's the geographic range that seems practical for the kids to actually participate?
Yeah, for sure. I always told people, like, we're looking to expand based on counties that we're touching. So if right now we're in Marin County, Contra Costa County, Alameda County, San Mateo County, and we're getting into Santa Clara County. So we're interested in working with counties that are touching our current county. Sacramento, I think, is one jump over. But frankly speaking, we recruit as many tech, STEM, STEAM employers. Like, we had an employer in Switzerland this year called Pictera, and they had 3 interns working with them, and it was very successful. So we're soon looking at asynchronous digital opportunities for students who are in different locations from the employer. And what better time than now to do that?
But I mean, I guess in the Bay Area, are kids that are in San Leandro actually getting jobs with, say, companies that are in like North Berkeley or something like that, or like city? Because like their public transportation opportunities are a little bit better there. Like, as the geographic thing goes, I'm in El Dorado Hills, which is in El Dorado County, that butts right up against, and where I am in the county is like on the fringes of actually being considered like part of Folsom, which is kind of, again, a suburban, but then Rancho Cordova isn't that far away, and we have our own little business park that's here. Now, kids that are in the county live further up the hill from me, it's a very different layout than it is in the Bay Area. It's much more rural. There's no the distances between places, you got to drive yourself there. So, I mean, have those been impediments? Like, are students actually getting themselves to those employers? How's that?
For the and sorry, my internet really sucks right now. Can you hear me still?
Yeah, I got you back.
Okay. Sorry, I'm gonna cut out for a little bit. Locality matters for the pandemic, and locality matters in general still. And transportation has always been the biggest issue with high school internship programs. It's really a well-accepted problem across all work-based learning programs, transportation. And so we really, frankly, really love, the asynchronous approach and the digital approach, because it really helps scale opportunities for students, as long as the experiences itself are actually still having the same realm of outcomes for students. So, and yes, we do have employers where they only want students from a specific city. And so we do get employers who scope out the project so that only San Leandro employers can obtain it, or Hayward students can obtain it, or East Palo Alto students can obtain it. And so when it comes to that, then the talent pool is just smaller for that employer, but they're fine with that because they're in it for civic engagement.
Derek, when you look at the students that participated, were almost all of them university bound? Did you get any data on how many were really planning to go to work right after high school versus go to a community college versus university, and how the internship kind of helped them get into the local workforce?
Yeah, really great question. So our program's been historically, so we actually started our work in alternative education sites. And that was our work that we started with. This last year, a little less, quote unquote, a lot more students who are already engaged, right? Who are in our program this last year. So certainly I think that there was an increase in students who were college bound from our current year, right? This last year. And going into this year with students having Chromebooks, having mobile Wi-Fis, and then being, acclimated to the situation at hand, I think we're going to see, a big increase in our previous numbers. Previously, based on our data, essentially about 60% of our students were free reduced lunch students, essentially, before this last year. We didn't collect that data this last year. Actually, we did collect it, but we didn't assess it yet. So, we're still working in Alameda County, right, and Contra Costa County. So our students are quite, in a range of different boats. But when you start kids from San County, right, or Marin County, then you're starting to see students who are a little better off with their families.
I mean, the ideal thing that if they could get a job with an employer, then they could afford to go to college, so like it would really give them a leg up if they don't have the resources.
Yes, absolutely. I think what we're finding is that a lot of it is dependent on parents, right? As you all may know. And parents, encouragement and recognition of opportunities is a big one. And one thing that we want to start doing, not right now, we're not ready like this year, maybe not even next year, but is start actually working with our students who are in our programs to promote up to their parents to actually have reskilling programs. So that's one thing that we want to start working on, is starting to get the whole family unit, moving towards the same direction, or kind of eliminating, generational poverty. But absolutely, yes.
Any other questions for Derek? This has been great. A lot to consider. Well, Derek, you put in the chat how to, if we want to be involved and get invited to your program. Hopefully everybody has a chance to grab that out of the chat. And I want to thank you very much for your time. Very informative. And I wish you the best, and hopefully some good things happen here in Sacramento too.
Great. Look forward to it. So the next step, if you are interested, go to that link, enter the password, watch the video, and schedule a meeting with me. Let's talk.
Excellent.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks again. Hey.
Thanks, Derek.
And Jeff Briggs is going to talk for just a minute about something cool going on. So.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm just going to share my screen. Let me know if you guys can see that.
I can see it.
Awesome. So John Zay is teaching a program out at Sac City College called the IMM Tech program. And basically we're training, skilled technicians to repair and maintain industrial equipment. typically found in food processing plants, which there are quite a few in the region, as well as manufacturing plants and warehouses. Pretty much, you find people. We find that we're needing people all over the place that have these skills, and this program is brand new, just launched this past term, the fall term. Currently, it's all remote distance learning, just like pretty much everything else. But this flyer that I have right here talks a little bit about what is taught in the program. Also, we're looking for input and feedback from potential employers. So if you know of anybody who, any of your contacts that may want to have some input into this, there is going to be an advisory meeting tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Not sure if that time is convenient for all, but after this call, we'll send out some information about it. And that way you guys can forward that on to anybody in your network and try to get more interest in the program. Right now we have, I believe there were 7 students enrolled, and we're trying to grow that number. But they developed the program because of the express need. So hopefully you guys can help us get the word out. Does anybody have any questions about the program? Steve, did I cover everything?
Yeah, I think you did, Jeff. And again, when I was in the classroom in the shop, who used to do most of the maintenance for the darn shop? It was me, the teacher. And when I found somebody who could actually come in and help me with some of the more technical things, I was so thankful. But these people that I was able to bring in, there are very few of them out there. And this is a field that's not going to go away. And so, and a lot of students I had, or some students I had that had that mechanical aptitude, this is a perfect career path for them to consider. So
yeah, I should also mention that, according to John, he said that these workers start out, they may not start out making tons of money, but once they prove themselves, they go up the ranks very quickly and their pay scale grows. So within a few years, a good industrial maintenance mechanic can start earning, upwards of 6 figures. So that's pretty darn good for somebody who doesn't have a 4-year degree. So.
Agreed. So thank you, Jeff, for the presentation. And if anybody wants information on the advisory meeting tomorrow, just to hear a little more about the program and maybe make some connections with some of the employers that will be there, let Jeff know. And I think, Jeff, you can share with them the link to the Zoom link to participate.
Absolutely.
And John's normally on these calls, and so I'm sure he would welcome anybody to participate just as we're trying to build this program. And speaking of that, anybody else have anything on their mind that they'd like to throw out to the group that they could use help with, or a thought they want to have covered and just kick around for a few minutes before we break for Thanksgiving?
I guess that it's good that we're talking the internship thing. I've actually had like no fewer than 5 different employers asking for one to start with full-time hires. I've been able to actually place 2 students in internships with a local company. Just finally the stars aligned on that one, and I have my principal involved. But I guess, Derek, even on this one, I'm trying to set up and get it going so that there's work-based learning, an actual class that's a work-based learning, so that we can then also get senior level kids to get like an entire class period. So for me, it would be 2 days a week. They would be able to go off and actually work and spend their afternoon working. I know that model's been done before, so there's no Steve, I guess you've been around longer, so I know that model's been done before, but I've really been struggling to get it pinned down of like all the steps that it takes to get that like accomplished. And I'm also trying to chip away at that whole 18 and over issue. And I have a feeling it relates to insurance levels, because I've also read state California labor laws. There's nothing in the California state labor laws that exclude a kid that's under 18. They got to be older than 16, but to operate CNC equipment, there's a few things that are called out explicitly that are verboten, like punch presses and some other types of like meat cutting and other saw equipment that minors are not allowed to touch. But there isn't anything that excludes them from welding. There's nothing that excludes them from running a CNC mill. So the other thing that, like, so long as all the guards and everything are in place, I think the other thing too is to start working and educating employers to what those are, and then really figuring out what's holding them up and helping them to get through that. So I know that was of a barf out of a whole bunch of, but anyway, that's still stuff that I really need help with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's like Derek's got some thoughts, and Alicia may have some thoughts too on this, on what Max just said. Derek, looks like you're ready to chime in.
Yeah, sure. Alicia, feel free to, go first. I've talked enough already, so.
Okay, well, with our summer, we have a CTE summer preceptorship program, Max. It is a 4-week program that I wrote a course for. So the students are in class 1 day a week, and then they're doing their work-based learning the other 4. There's also, it's a hybrid type of course. There's also a project they do at the end with a presentation. We have awards. There's like 3 components, but you need to have a section for it, which means there needs to be money and a teacher of record for it as well. So what you're talking about is like the old ROP 10-hour programs that they've been in class 1 day a week and go work for, and all the ROP vans went all over town, taking the students to the job sites. So the liabilities, you say, the workers' comp concern from the employers, but obviously I do it with juniors going into their senior year. So I've worked around that. There's an agreement and release of liability that I've worked with our attorneys with that the employers are great with. The problem is this last summer I had to cancel, except for we did create a 2-week program with Kaiser and a 1-week program with Safe Credit Union. So we were virtually able to place students in it, but it didn't replace the hands-on, learning and everything they get from the work-based learning program. And I'm concerned with what our numbers are right now. We just opened our elementary schools and we've been on the news already. So I'm really concerned if the employers aren't Intel had to cancel their program that I work with and support and get kids in. If they're not going to have their own employees, what are we going to do this summer? So I've already made an appointment with you tomorrow, Derek, to meet at 12:30 to talk about and learn more about your program, see what we can do virtually.
Well, thanks, Alicia. I guess, I'll have to figure out how to work with you and see what we have our own. And again, I guess it comes down to district level, what they're willing to do. And so I'll have to figure out. We've got some resources internal to my district, but it's been challenging to pull those levers. I guess, Derek, the other question too is how long does it take you what are you projecting it's going to take to get employers on board with your system, and how do you make the pitch to them that it's worth their while?
Yeah, so our program starts on January 29th. So if you're talking about a spring work-based learning experiences, then our program aligns well with that time frame. On the employer side, just, the manufacturing employers, it's really the manufacturing side that has their barriers, right? Schools will take any employers that want to give students experiences. So it's really employers and their own policies around workers' compensation and insurance and so forth. So I don't know if there's much you can do on that front unless the position's positioned around a non-manufacturing based job as a start until they turn 18, for example, right? If you're trying to get kids full-time jobs with manufacturing employers, I recommend talking to them about perhaps like a marketing kind of function or kind of an extraneous function just to get them in the door, right? And then perhaps in the meantime, they're taking manufacturing classes at a local community college to gain credit and to get them lined up ready to work for that manufacturer. That's what I've seen as a way to kind of get it going with manufacturing employers. We're also chipping away on the same front. And I think we have some ideas. And we have manufacturing employers, but just not straight up manufacturing employers, if you know what I mean. Like the digital manufacturing employers are fine, because a lot of them are building software, or they have controlled environments where they have a machine or a tool, right? Like a 3D printer company or a laser cutter company or a 3D printing service company. Those work really well. I'd love to talk to you further and see if your students may like our program. I'd love to talk to you. And, we can even talk more, outside of our program and just kind of riff a little bit. So happy to chat.
Yeah, no, I'll try and figure out how I can reach out to you separately then. Yeah, perfect.
Cool. I can probably message you my number so you can text me or something like that.
Yeah, that'll work great. Yep.
And Max, let me know if you have any questions. I mean, I put kids with welders and they weld off somewhere. They're doing the work.
Yeah, no, and
it's all of the paperwork.
I will share my people with you too, like the ones that I've got, because I know between me and Drew, we've probably got enough still. I think hopefully, Drew, did you hear back whether that your student made it to jail, Haley?
I don't think he's on the call anymore.
He dropped off the line. So anyway, yeah, Alicia, I'll try and reach out to you.
Okay, perfect.
Needing people.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other thoughts of anybody? Anything you want to hear in the near future next time we get together?
Make COVID go away.
I got a crew on it, Alicia. I'll let you know.
One thing that I want to mention to those who are struggling with the physicality of work experiences that are required for your area of teaching, right, is that there's some tools that we've been looking into that you may want to spend your money on, perhaps. For example, a Matterport 3D scanning machine. So Matterport, it's a machine you put into rooms in any room, and then you put in a room, it scans the room, you put in the next room, it scans that room, put in the next room, it scans that room, and in the cloud, it would stitch all those rooms together as a 3D model, and then create a immersive environment where you can self-tour that environment. We're gonna be using that this year with someone who has a machine, and we're gonna experiment with like Lawrence Berkeley Labs or a healthcare facility for that experience. We also somehow convinced Alameda County Office of Education to buy 10 Telepresence robots a few years ago. So Telepresence robots are robots that actually roll around in a physical location, and you can Skype into it through its proprietary software, like a video conference system like this, and then you can use the arrow keys on your keyboard to move that robot in a remote environment. So we have 10 of those that Alameda County Office of Ed bought for our program. So I would recommend looking into double robotics, or Beam. Beam is much more expensive. Wouldn't recommend buying that. It's too expensive, but double robotics is somewhat affordable. They're really like a few thousand a machine. So we're looking at models like that where it's still physical, it's still, but yes, these factors that limit the organizers to say yes, right? So if there's an opportunity to collaborate there as an experiment, we'd love to partner there too.
Great information, Derek. Anybody else have anything? We're getting near the bottom of the hour. Let me ask you this. Should we hold one in December? We've only got like 2.5 weeks once we come back from Thanksgiving. Or should we put it off till early January? What do you think?
January.
Yeah, I'm glad this is the first one I made in a while. Probably, yeah, if it works better for January, I'm kind of few and far between, but sure, January. And then Steve, I'll try and get a hold of you for other training stuff.
Yeah, that'd be great, Max.
Send me the date again, because my brain, send me an email with the date, and I'll to go investigate.
Saturday the 16th, Max, but it's Martin Luther King's birthday week.
The MLK thing, all right. Well,
yeah, so most schools are taking the Monday off.
Okay, cool.
So, Steve, is that a concern for participation that people
may? We were trying to get, Alicia, great question, and it can be a concern, but we were also trying to find a window for community colleges. So community college folks will probably be back from their month off. And before they get into too much, and then we started looking at the next weekend. So no, it's not in stone, but you're right. I was going to send out I've been working with Tim Paul trying to come up with what this might look like for this training. And I was going to send out, a survey of there's a 16th work or whatever the following Saturday would be the 23rd. So.
Good idea.
I'm moving.
Out of counties.
I'm not there yet.
El Dorado County has been relatively more open to interaction. It just needs to be under 10 people typically, and I need to get special permission from my administration. But if we do it here,
Okay.
they've been a little bit more, yeah, with masks and all. Anyway.
Yeah, we can do that.
In terms of the time for the next meeting, I'm kind of torn because I'm kind of burnt at this point in this. And but at the
Zoom
same
fatigue.
time, as I realize that January is going to be there and we're going to start new classes, and I'm going to be here. Am I really totally? Do I have everything I need in order to actually fill an entire term with more virtual stuff? So kind of running low on ideas.
Okay.
So it really doesn't matter. I'm good either way, to be honest.
Okay.
Matt, Matt, are you fully virtual right now?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so fully virtual. I can send you, it's worked pretty well. It's taken about 8 weeks to do one, it's taken up an entire quarter to do a home improvement 5S project. It's actually, I feel, working pretty well.
I like a whole term. I like that. Just kidding.
So, well, it's most of a quarter. I mean, it's again 1 week. So if I can try and share that with the group, or I'll still send Steve, I guess, a link to stuff. And you might have to modify it. It's a little bit the me show because I'm trying to engage with my students. But if you follow this sequence, it's like 7 or 8 different assignments, and you do one per week, and it spaces out pretty well. And the students have the chance. Ideally, they just organize their desk at home, and it results in an improvement that they can see. It doesn't really require them to have any materials or anything on hand. So I'll try and send a link to that folder to Steve, and then he can disseminate it to everybody.
That'd be good.
That'd be great.
I thought I would leave you with one more thing, Steve, and that is, it's too bad Dee is not here. Their connection for Chromebooks has really changed everything. It really makes it a whole lot better. So folks at Autodesk, they deserve some credit for making that work.
Excellent. I'll let her know.
It's just so much better. And then, of course, navigating how to grade projects and not have to have them send links and share, and that was a mess. And so the system of having them invite people to projects, it really works out well. So the whole system is so much better now.
Excellent. Good feedback, Mac. Thanks.
Yep.
Any other thoughts or comments, or should we head off to Thanksgiving dinner and turkey and dressing?
Only if you have 6 or fewer people or whatever it is.
That's a problem with the Dicus family. So
don't worry, you can invite Gavin over. He'd love to come.
I'm going to leave it right there. So probably save this. Hey, thanks all for participating. I think this was a great meeting, and we'll be back in touch soon. I'll keep you up to date on what's going on with Breakfast with the Manufacturer and the winter trainer that's coming up. So.
Thank you all. Nice to meet you all.
Thanks again.
All right. Thanks. You have a good one.
Thanks,
Derek.
Okay.
Hey, Steve and Karen, if you don't mind hanging for a sec.
Yeah.
Sure.